Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 174 of the BoxHard podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. Ayaz is not with me this week, but I'm joined by a very good replacement, the former heavyweight world title challenger himself, Mr. Eddie Chambers. Eddie, thanks once again for coming on the show. Thanks for replacing Ayaz once again.
Not a problem, man. You know, anything for my people.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Right, getting straight down to business now for the review part of the show. We're going to start in a place called the Hordern Pavilion in Sydney, Australia. We're going to start here with Tim Tszyu. That's obviously the son of former world champion Costa Tszyu. He's now 12-0. He picked up here, he didn't pick up here. He defended successfully his interim WBA Oceania Super Welterweight title against Denton Vassell, Britain's very own. 25-6 now. He lost, actually, Denton Vassell. He got TKO'd in the second round, so Tim Tszyu certainly seems to be one to watch for the future. Moving out now to France in Paris, Olympian, if I'm not mistaken, I think he picked up a medal. It could have been the silver, could have been the bronze in the 2016 Olympics. Solomon Sissoko, now 8-0. A TKO in the third round against Romain Garofalo, who's now 14-4. That one was for the vacant French Super Welterweight title. Moving out now to Germany. One fight really to mention over here. Christina Hammer, the middleweight world champion. I'm pretty sure she still holds the titles, but it was a non-title bout here. She moves to 24-0, a TKO in the second round against Eileen Sikmashvili, who's now 8-8. That really sets up Christina Hammer versus Clarissa Shields, a serious unification in the middleweight division there. I've spoken to Clarissa Shields. Apparently that fight is pretty much done for April 13th. It could have even been officially announced. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, we will have Clarissa on the show perhaps next week or the week after that. So that's a massive fight there for the female side of the sport. Moving out now, though, to the Ulster Hall in Belfast, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom. Two fights to mention, or three. James Tennyson, former world title challenger, like I say, got stopped by Tevin Farmer. He moved to 23-3. He had his man down twice in the second round and out. Gary Neal, the opponent, 10-0, undefeated. He lost his O here. Like I say, a second round knockout there to James Tennyson. Paul Hyland Jr. picked up win number 20. Only one loss, of course, came to Lewis Ritson. A win here over Miroslav Serban, who's now 10-2. Points win over 8 rounds for Paul Hyland Jr., but he went down in the 5th round himself, so that one's pretty problematic for him, really. I don't think he takes a punch fantastically, Paul Hyland Jr. That's my criticism to him, but a good fighter nonetheless. Also on the bill, Tommy McCarthy moved to 13-1. A points win over 8 rounds against Jiri Svacina, a journeyman, now 13-34. So like I say, Tommy McCarthy 13-1, still a good cruiserweight prospect. Moving out now though to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Eddie, they've changed the name of this venue a few times. I believe it's the same venue that you fought Gerald Washington in. Is that right? The Dignity Health.
It was a StubHub when I fought him. StubHub Center. Yeah.
Did you happen to see anything on this card? Mainly the Gervonta Davis win.
No, you know what? I missed it. I was actually gonna be home to see it, but of course, just like every other day in my life, recently I've been so busy doing so many things. If it's not training guys, it's working. You know what I mean? So it's been really difficult for me to sometimes actually sit down and watch it. But I'm gonna take a look at it soon. I've been wanting to see it because I know, I've heard some things, good and bad, about it. I mean, there's not a lot to critique when you win. You know what I mean? Convincingly, but I still want to take a look at it because educated eyes generally can make a different assumption, a different have a different understanding than sometimes just folks who watch boxing. You know what I mean?
And a very convincing win it was. A first round knockout for Gervonta Davis. He knocked out Hugo Ruiz, a man who, there's a bit of a backstory. I mean, Hugo Ruiz is actually, I believe he's a super bantamweight, but he moved up a weight to fight at featherweight on the Pacquiao-Browne undercard, and here, just 3 weeks later, he moved up in weight once again to 130 super featherweight to take on Gervonta Davis. It wasn't really Gervonta's fault, of course. Abner Mares pulled out of the fight, and in stepped Hugo Ruiz. He was searching for win number 40, but it wasn't to be. He's now 39-5. Like I say, a knockout in the first round. Another knockout there for Gervonta Davis. I think he's only been the distance once. But yeah, I mean, the fight itself, not too much really to say about it. A good start to the round, really, from Gervonta. He was leading with his left hand. He's full of power. I mean, Hugo Ruiz was constantly being pushed back, and after taking a few flush shots, he took a knee and he didn't want to know. I mean, referee Jack Reese was asking him, do you want to continue? I think he was saying it in Spanish, and Hugo Ruiz was just looking at Jack Reese and not responding, and he basically quit, to be honest. I mean, I can't say it was surprising. Like I say, the man was a super bantamweight, and we do need to see Gervonta back very quickly. This showing wasn't really enough for the whole of 2019, just the one round. We need him back, and preferably before the summer. On the undercard, though, of Gervonta's fight there, we saw Erickson Lubin take on Ishe Smith. Erickson Lubin, the young prospect, one loss to Charlo. No real shame in that. 19-1, like I say, got in there against Ishe Smith, 29-10, a veteran of the game, really. Ishe Smith, a man that had never been stopped, and I did often wonder, the day he does get stopped, will he, have a long, hard think about his career and perhaps retire? And that is exactly what happened. Unfortunately, he retired on his store after 3 rounds. His corner pulled him out. He was down, I believe it was 2 or 3 times, and he was down in the 3rd round just once. And like I say, the referee accepted the retirement of the corner after round 3, so he didn't come out for round 4. Ishe Smith now 29-11, and that is how it ends. A 40 fight career there. Of course, he became a world champion, so there's no shame in that. You can't really knock the guy. Even being 40 years of age, he still mixed it with some of the toughest guys, some of the best prospects in the 154 division. So all credit to Ishe Smith. He's decided to retire from boxing. A friend of the show, Erickson Lubin, 20-1, and that's a great win. It's got to be the best win of his career for sure. Also on the bill, we saw Sharif Bagir, 32-1. He actually got dropped in the 6th round, but he ended up getting back up and losing unanimously over 10 to Javier Fortuna, who's now 34-2 with 1 draw. No real surprise there, to be honest. Prospect Mario Barrios, 23-0 now, a knockout in the 4th round against Richard Zamora. Zamora, tough Mexican, but it wasn't to be his night. 19-3 now. Mario Barrios really impressing me, I have to say. All the very best to him. Moving out now, though, to the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California, USA. Topping the bill over here, we saw Ray Vargas, 32-0, another successful defense of his WBC World Super Bantamweight title. He beat unanimously over 12 rounds Franklin Manzanilla, who's now 18-5. It was looked at as a little bit of an easy touch for Ray Vargas, but it wasn't to be an easy touch. He was dropped in the 2nd round, and Vargas, who's, like I say, still undefeated, 33-0, WBC World Champion, everything's going great for him. That's the 3rd time he's been dropped, and every single time he's been dropped has been in the 2nd round, so seems to be a bit of a danger round for him there. Moving down the undercard, Alberto Machado, I'm not quite sure how it's said, 21-0. He was the WBA World Super Featherweight Champion. Well, anyway, a shock upset loss. He got knocked out in 4 rounds against Andrew Cancio, who was 19-4 with 2 draws, so a big upset there. Cancio obviously a lot better than people gave him credit for. Cancio himself was down in the 1st round. He got back up to knock the champion down 3 times in the 4th round, and he's dethroned him there, so a humongous upset there. Joseph Jojo Diaz picked up win number 28. He's got that 1 sole loss to Gary Russell Jr. He took on Charles Huerta, who's now 20-6. A 10-round unanimous decision there for Jojo Diaz. Not much else really to mention on the undercard aside from Turiano Johnson, 20-2. He took on Fernando Castaneda, a man that's been in there with the likes of Jose Aberton, the likes of Frank Buglioni. Those guys have managed to knock him out. Well, anyway, he went the distance with Turiano Johnson, who can punch as well. I'd expect him to really get the knockout, but it ended up being a split draw over 8 rounds, so that's a bit of a strange one there. Moving out now, though, to the Save Mart Arena, the final bill to mention of the review part of the show. It was in Fresno, California. 3 big American shows all took place in the state of California. There's a little fact for you. Let's start with the undercard here. We saw Joel Diaz Jr., 24-1. He was a good prospect till he ran into Regis Prograis and got dropped 4 times in 2 rounds, but that was that. I think he had 1 or 2 wins since then, and he got in here against Christian Correa. 28 wins, 7 losses and 2 draws. Not the best looking resume on paper. Well, anyway, Correa, another upset here. He was able to actually knock out Joel Diaz Jr. in 3 rounds, so that was pretty shocking. I spoke to Regis Prograis just after the fight. I said, wow, did you see that? That was incredible. And Regis said that he personally thinks he ruined Joel Diaz Jr. Well, like I said on last week's show, the 2 guys have gone in completely different directions. Regis beat the hell out of Joel Diaz Jr. Now look at Regis. He's at the top of the world, undefeated, one of the best in the 140 division, if not the best. And Joel Diaz Jr. just seemed to go right down. And another showing of it, like I said it on last week's show, he's gone in a complete different direction to Regis. And here, it's an even worse position for him. Also on the bill, we saw Andy Vences move to 22-0 with that 1 draw, a win over 8 rounds against Dardan Zenunaj. That was a points win over 8, like I say. Saul Rodriguez, Neno, his nickname, he picked up a KO in the 5th round against Aelio Mesquita, now 17-4. So Saul Rodriguez now 23-0 with that 1 draw. Genesis Savania, this is an interesting one. 32 wins, 1 loss. The 1 loss came to Oscar Valdez, a real good fight, a great account of himself he gave against Valdez. He fought here for the vacant WBC Continental Americas Super Bantamweight title. He took on the young prospect Carlos Castro, 21-0. I think he's only 22 or 23 years of age. And I felt like it was a real tough test to give to a young guy. I mean, like I say, Savania gave a great fight to, an established, hardened, tough world champion, Oscar Valdez. But it wasn't to be for him. Carlos Castro, for me, now becomes a real prospect to keep an eye on. A 10-round unanimous decision there over Savania. So that's brilliant there. Carlos Castro, 22-0. Also on the bill, we saw Raimundo Beltran, 35-8 with 1 draw, fight for the vacant WBC Continental Americas Super Lightweight title and the vacant WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title against Japan's very own undefeated Hiroki Okada, 19-0. Now Okada was actually winning the fight pretty clearly. You know, he was down in the 1st round. He got off to a bit of a rocky start, but after that he got to his boxing. He was really performing well, and it looked like he was going on to win. He had Beltran's face looking a real mess, but Beltran was able to get that knockout in the 9th round. He had his man down twice in that round. He completely got the fight beaten out of him, really, and Beltran once again shows his tremendous heart. Like I say, that is one thing he really does have. Boxes and boxes of a friend of the show, Beltran, a guy that's really had to fight, not just inside the ring but also outside of the ring in a search for a green card just to keep himself with his family in the United States. A real unfortunate situation. And then Jose Carlos Ramirez, 23-0, took on Jose Zepeda, 30-1. Zepeda's 1 loss came to Terry Flanagan when he dislocated his shoulder, so not really a proper loss when you look at that. So it was set to be a good fight on paper, and it was a good fight. It translated into a good fight, like I say, for Ramirez's WBC World Super Lightweight title. It ended up being a majority decision over 12 rounds in favour of the champion Ramirez. Many people dispute this. A lot of people online are kind of, well, they're split, they're straying, they're going left and right, not quite sure who to give it to. Some people say Zepeda got robbed. I don't think it was enough to say it was a robbery. I think it was very close. For me, I think Ramirez probably did shade it. I'm pleased for him though, because I was saying on last week's show, just at the very end of the show, if anyone did listen that far, that Ramirez had given away 1,000 tickets to cancer patients, and he'd also donated his gloves and shorts and stuff that he'd wore previously in other fights. I believe he put it all up for auction and raised money for a fantastic cancer hospice. So credit to him. I'm a fan of his, and all the very best to him going forward. But that's really it for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part one, the last thing to do is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA heavyweight champion of the world. It is, of course, Mr. Lucas Browne. Lucas, welcome back on the show, big man.
Thank you for having me, mate. Thank you.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. So, Lucas, we last spoke back in July. Since then, of course, you've had 2 fights, both wins, both knockouts within 5 rounds. How's it felt to get back in the ring, obviously following that defeat to White just under a year ago now?
It's very good to get back in the ring. I realised that they're not world class of any sort, but there were things that I needed to do on my side in regards to obviously fitness. There was a new trainer, a lot of things going on in my camp and stuff like that, as well as the team around me that were getting fixed as well. So the Dillian Whyte loss for me was a very good eye-opener. Unfortunately, it was on the world stage, so it wasn't a good thing for me to have everyone else watch at the same time, but something that needed to happen, and it really woke me up in regards to having to change a few things. I think the changes have been very good, and as you said, I've had 2 knockouts since, and coming up March 2nd in Scotland to go for another one.
And one guy that you fought in those 2 fights, I should mention, was 7'1". What was that like, Lucas?
Yeah, that's actually is the tallest. I believe is the tallest boxer. I don't know about in history, but like at the moment anyway. And also 141 kilos, so just a lot of weight as well. There was times where he was leaning on me and pushing me around and stuff like that, and it's just a lot of weight to sort of carry around. Now, you look at someone like Big Baby; he's also that same weight, so it's a hard thing to sort of try and keep off you at the same time.
And obviously another thing that's happened since we last spoke is that Wilder took on Tyson Fury. You're a realist when it comes to boxing. You're unbiased. In your opinion, who won that fight for you?
I think because Wilder is the champion, I think you do have to come and beat the champion. Now, I don't think Fury beat the champion. So whether it's a draw or a Wilder win, I don't think Fury won the fight. I think it was a great fight. But I don't think that Fury actually came and dominantly won the fight, so I would give it to Wilder.
Okay, and I know that obviously before that fight you'd done a couple rounds with Tyson himself. Were you surprised by his performance? Because he seemed in many people's eyes to perform really well, despite not really being in tip-top shape. But obviously, because you'd done a few rounds with him, did it shock you seeing him perform like that, or was he that good in the gym?
To be honest, the rounds that we did, I think we did 6 or 7 rounds. They were pretty much a piss take. He was throwing spinning back elbows on me and all sorts of stuff. But the guy is an absolute talent. Like, he's 6'9", long as hell, and can fight like he's about 6'1". So I wasn't surprised how good he is. I know how hard it is to hit him as well. But again, Wilder is 6'8" himself and very long himself. So I wasn't surprised in any way, and I think he's an absolute talent when it comes to boxing.
And a rematch between those 2 guys is looking ever more likely. Who would you favour going into that one?
I personally, looking at Wilder's past fights, like he come up against Browne and went the distance, but then the next time he come up against Browne, he absolutely demolished him. Now, I think that was also Stefan's doing in terms of not rocking up in the proper shape. But I think Wilder was very tentative against Fury the first time, and I don't think he will be the second time. So I'm picking Wilder for an earlier knockout.
Okay, and yourself and Dave Allen have had some back and forth. A fight between the pair of you has been pretty much all but announced. However, of course, you felt that you'd probably benefit from a fight before that, and the opponent that you've selected will be Kamil Sokolowski. That's to take place on March the 2nd, as you say, in Scotland. What do you know about Sokolowski?
Yep. basically, I picked him because, unfortunately, his record looks quite shit, to be honest. It's 6 wins and 14 losses. But he is so much better than what his record suggests. And he has gone the distance with a lot of people. Like, we're talking Gorman, Price, Little, Sean Turner. Like the list goes on. As well as recently just knocking out Webb. So, like, he's so much better than what his record suggests. At the same time, I don't want to go up against someone who's just going to fall over in the first round. So, for me, if it goes 6 rounds, that's all well and good. I want to get the rounds under my belt and be able to sort of showcase a few different things going into the Allen fight. And I think it's a perfect warm-up preparation for Allen fight.
And Sokolowski, like I say, he's very much a well-respected journeyman. And in fact, even calling him a journeyman probably doesn't feel right, because I've seen him upset a few fighters. I've been ringside for him for a few of his fights. I've seen him knock people out. It's an odd kind of choice of opponent. I mean, Dave Allen's tweeted out, I think it was last week or perhaps this week, that he's very much against you even fighting Sokolowski. And I believe he also stated that Eddie Hearn feels it's a bit of a silly fight to make, as Sokolowski's such a banana skin type of fighter. So tell me, Lucas, of all the guys, I know you kind of just explained it there, but of all the guys, why this fight? Surely it's quite risky.
Well, it comes down to promoters as well, and I was saying someone like a Tom Little. I think that would have been a good fight. Now, I don't know whether Tom priced himself out or the promoter just wasn't happy with the price, but that didn't come about. They actually put forward someone that was 0-2. Now, 0-2 is just that was never going to happen, whether the board approved it or not, which they didn't. Thank Christ, but I would have said no to that anyway. So when they come up with Sokolowski, I jumped at that and thought, yes, that's at least a great fight, especially compared to someone who's 0-2.
And tell us, Lucas, this Dave Allen fight, where are we with it? What's actually the latest?
Well, it was supposed to be on the AJ card when it was at Wembley. Now, as we know, it's not going to be Wembley. It's going to be against Miller in the US. So I believe, from what I've been told, nothing has been confirmed yet, but April 20 at the O2 on the white undercard. Okay,
because I think, I'm not 100%, but I think I saw something that Eddie apparently stated that perhaps White's now not going to be fighting on the 20th, but don't take much notice from that. I'm not too sure if that's official. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Lucas, on Dave Allen as a fighter? And, of course, as a man, he's quite a personality outside of the ring.
Yeah, absolute legend. We've got some good banter going backwards and forwards, which is great. I think it's going to be two just genuine fellas who like to box and no bullshit, no trash talking, just come forward and fight. I believe he's quite a good boxer. I think he sort of lets himself down a little bit with training, I think, with the shape that he may come in for particular fights. But I definitely think he's a great guy and a great boxer, so I'm really looking forward to it.
And it's official, you mentioned it there, Joshua will be defending his titles against Jarrell Big Baby Miller on June the 1st in New York. How do you see that one playing out?
To be honest, it is a real weird one for me. I obviously think that AJ's got the better boxing skills, and coming in at, say, 111 or 112 kilos, which is what he normally does, I think he's going to be the fitter one. But Big Baby, being that 140 kilos and constant pressure, constantly coming forward, he's got a great chin, but does get hit a lot. So I put it as a 50-50 because I don't think we've seen AJ get pressured by someone as big as that in the past. So it'll be a good test for AJ to see if he can come through that. In saying that, as I said, Miller gets hit a lot. So AJ does have the opportunity to sort of knock him out as well. But I put it as a 50-50, to be honest.
And the final two questions now, Lucas. Obviously, you've decided to come off of Twitter entirely. You're just operating on Instagram now, if I'm not mistaken. What's the reasons behind that? I know that it's I know what it is really. It's the UK fans that seem to get on your nerves.
To be honest, I've only got onto Twitter because that was basically Ricky Hatton's main forum, and that's why I jumped on. For me as well, it was very much a UK base for me. But I just got sick of having to read the bullshit coming out of, and again, 90% of the bullshit came from the UK. Now, I'm not saying it's all UK people and all that sort of stuff, but the bullshit that I got was from the UK, and I just got sick of looking at it, viewing it, and everything else, so just got rid of it, yeah.
Did you never just consider blocking all these people, though?
Dude, I in all honesty, like since the world title fight and the drugs scandal and all that sort of bullshit, I was blocking about 10 to 15 people a day. And still to this day, I'm still blocking 5 or 6 people on Instagram per day. It's absolutely unreal. The amount of abuse and stuff that people just think, yeah, I'm going to private message him and just abuse him and see what happens. And it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. I know for a fact that not one of these people would say it to my face because I'll just drop them there and then. And it's the beauty of social media and what happens in this day and age. But I just got sick of the abuse and the crap, so I just got rid of it.
Fair play to you. And Lucas, it's Thursday now in the UK. It's Valentine's Day over here. Any message at all for Dave Allen?
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Very, very lovely. Happy Valentine's Day to Dave Allen. We've both got some nice naked pictures up on Instagram at the moment, and it's all gone well. So, yeah, good luck to you, mate. Keep training, and love you lot.
Okay, listen, Lucas, it's always a pleasure catching up, my friend. It really is. Best of luck with your upcoming fight on March the 2nd. We'll all look out for an announcement for the Dave Allen Showdown eventually, and no doubt we'll catch up soon afterwards.
Awesome, mate. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show, so there's a few little things to go over. Firstly, David Price will be fighting on the Liverpool card on March the 30th in the Echo Arena. He takes on the undefeated Cash Ali, who's, I believe, 14-0, but he's strangely fighting this weekend in a little bit of a keep busy fight, so hopefully he wins that one, and then the fight will go ahead. So David Price, Cash Ali, 30th of March in Liverpool. Also, we have a world title fight that's happening at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Eddie. Alexander Gvozdyk takes on a fighter called Dudu Ngumbu, who's supposed to be pretty decent. Well, I say pretty decent. I think it's probably quite an easy win there for Gvozdyk. I think Dudu's been in there with... who did he fought a guy 3 times? Can't remember the guy's name now, and he lost all 3 fights to the guy. I think he also lost to Andre Fonfara, who actually this week has retired. You know, he had two fights with Stevenson. He gave him a real fight in the first one, but then of course looked terrible in the second one. And lastly, we must talk about the 1st of June at the Madison Square Garden, New York, USA. Anthony Joshua defends his IBF, WBA and WBO world titles against the undefeated Big Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller, Brooklyn's very own. Interesting fight, Eddie.
Yeah, to say the least. I'm looking forward to it. It's there's a lot with that fight. You know what I mean? You look at Big Baby and the things he's done in his recent fights, fighting other guys, even big guys. Some Gerald Washington, who's similar as far as size, well, a little smaller, let's just say, thin, with as far as thickness than Anthony Joshua, but similar in height. Obviously, a pretty solid difference in skills, but the fight itself is just, to me, it comes down to, can Big Baby take what Anthony Joshua was willing to give, and then vice versa as well. Because I mean, it's one thing to fight a guy that's a pretty big guy, maybe even comparable in size to say Anthony Joshua, maybe 250, 240, 250, 240 pounds. It's a different thing. It's a different monster altogether. Fight somebody 300 pounds coming forward that isn't necessarily really slow, you know what I mean, and can punch and just tough mentally as well, and super confident. It's going to be a really, really interesting fight. I tell you what, for as long as it lasts, it's going to be action packed. I'm almost guaranteeing that somebody's going out of there soon. And I mean, most people are going to lean obviously to Anthony Joshua, which is a safe pick, but like I said, Big Baby's not getting in this fight for no reason. You know what I mean? He really feels that he has an opportunity to really do something big. And I think he has a shot. I mean, anybody who gets in there has a puncher's chance, but I think, his size and his skill set does somewhat pose a problem for Anthony Joshua in a sense. But, they're both, kind of like they're comparable in height, but, Big Baby coming in at 300 pounds adds that extra weight. It's like he had a refrigerator on his back coming forward, man. It's going to be really, really tough to at least keep him from coming in, unless, of course, Anthony Joshua lands that shot that puts him on his knees, which is possible.
Yeah, very intriguing fight. You mentioned there, Eddie. The clash of styles is quite interesting. Obviously, Jarrell Big Baby Miller's a guy that I'd imagine is extremely hard to try and get sparring partners in to replicate because of that size. Not just obviously the height, but also how grounded he is. And he's also got a real solid chin. He seems to have been hit a few times and took the shots well. He's obviously got a kickboxing background. I think he's been kicked in the head before and not knocked out. So good chin. As I say, I'll talk more in depth about it as it rolls round. It's all the way in June, so a little while to wait. But without going off in a different direction, I actually prefer this fight than the Dillian Whyte fight, and the reason is because I feel like we've already seen the Dillian Whyte fight, and it is a different challenge to Anthony Joshua. I think if he doesn't knock Big Baby out within the first sort of 3-4 rounds, and Big Baby's coming forward and Joshua tires, then it could lead to some real interesting moments. But we'll leave that there. We'll move on to the preview part of the show. Let's start here at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in the Sheffield area in Yorkshire, United Kingdom. One fight to mention, like I say, Cash Ali, the man that's fighting David Price on March 30th. He takes on a guy called Colin Goldhawk. That's a fantastic surname. 2-2. That's a 6-round contest there. Moving out now to the Kansas Star Arena in Kansas, USA. A Dimitri Salita show over here. It's going to be shown on Showtime this weekend. The unfortunate thing is that this is there's a couple cards that I'd like to see on TV, but it's the only card that's being picked up by a UK broadcaster. I believe Box Nation are showing it. I think it's on the Friday. I think it's Friday. We will see over here, topping the bill, if I'm not mistaken, Shajahan Ergashev, 15-0, a real good prospect. I think he's got 14 knockouts. He takes on Michael Fox, the young prospect, 19-0, friend of the show. He's the guy that's a 140 fighter, but he's 6'3.5". He's a freak of nature, Michael Fox. But I'd love to see him win this, but I feel like he's really in the deep end here because this guy got a real stacked amateur record. And like I say, his pro career has been nothing short of perfect. Also on that card, we see Jesse Angel Hernandez, 12-1. He puts his NABA USA Super Bantamweight title on the line against Britain's very own Thomas Patrick Ward. Not quite sure how he qualifies to fight for the NABA USA Super Bantamweight title, but somehow he does. He's only 23 years of age, I believe, Thomas Patrick Ward, 25-0. He's had to do it without a big promoter behind him as well, and he's a good fighter. Not really the biggest puncher, but I wish him all the very best out there in the States. Moving out now to the Grand Casino in Hinckley, Minnesota, USA, a top-ranked show. This one's going to be on ESPN. We will see over here, friend of the I was going to say friend of the show, not just yet, but we will be speaking probably next week to Joshua Greer Jr., a young prospect, 19-1 with 1 draw. His opponent yet to be announced. That's a 10-rounder there for the WBC Continental Americas Bantamweight title. Joshua Greer Jr., a very colourful character, a man that likes to bring a pillow with him to the weigh-in to let his opponent know that they will be going to sleep. Also on that bill, we will see Michaela Meyer, 9-0. She puts her NABF female super featherweight title on the line against Yareli Larios, 13-1 with 1 draw. Also on the bill, we will see Derek Webster, 28-1, take on Lennox Allen, 21-0 with 1 draw. That's a 10-rounder there. But topping the bill, Rob Brandt, 24-1, the WBA World Middleweight Champion, takes on Kasan Baysangarov. Not going to lie and say I know much about the guy, but he's 17-0, and it is Rob Brandt's, I think it's his first or second defence, and I think it's his first fight under top rank anyway. A good signing for those guys. Moving out now to Belgium. I like to go pretty random with these previews. At the Hall Omnisport de la Praelle in a place called Herstal, we get to see Francesco Patera 20-3. The man that took away Lewis Ritzen's very unfortunate. He puts his EBU European lightweight title on the line against Marvin Petit, 24-1 with 1 draw. That's a real good fight, by the way. Could go either way. Moving out to Germany at the Koblenz in a place called Rheinland-Pfalz. This is a Sauerland card. 1 fight or 2 fights to mention over here. We get to see Anthony Yigit, 21-1 with 1 draw, take on Mohamed Khaladi, 10-7 with 1 draw. That's an 8-rounder there. And the more interesting fight, Abbas Barao, good amateur, but anyway, a good fighter, 4-0, undefeated. He fights here for the vacant WBC International Super Welterweight title against former Super Welterweight World Champion Carlos Molina, 29-10 with 2 draws. Carlos Molina, a real good friend of mine, a fantastic guy. I wish him all the very best out there in Germany against a guy who's only 4-0. I mean, a loss to this guy is a terrible thing, really. I mean, not just to mention, but Carlos Molina, of course, has got the losses to Josh Kelly, I think, who was 6-0, and that guy Solomon Sissoko we spoke about in the review part of the show. He I think was maybe 7-0 or 5-0, so he can't keep losing to these guys that are less than 10 fights into their career, and and expect big paydays or anything like that. Very unfortunate for Carlos Molina, but another fighter that hasn't been stopped. Very much similar to the likes of Ishe Smith, only that I think he's a much better fighter than Ishe Smith, and of course the pair clashed once upon a time as well. Moving out now to the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California, USA. This one's going to be on Fox. Lots and lots of boxing being shown on the TV out in the States, just not so much over here. Good card, this one, by the way. A few decent fights to mention. Omar Figueroa Jr., 27-0 with 1 draw. He was on last week's show. I love this fight. He's in a 10-rounder against John Molina Jr., 30-7. Big puncher, John Molina Jr. I asked Omar, Eddie, about John Molina. I said, what do you know about this guy? And literally his answer, whenever I say, do you know much about the guy? His answer is always, he just goes, nope. He doesn't know anything. Like, he doesn't watch boxing at all. Like, honestly, he was supposed to fight Adrian Browne last year, Omar Figueroa. The fight didn't happen. He hasn't fought since. He's been so inactive. His last win was against Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Robert the Ghost Guerrero retired, came back out of retirement and fought on the Fury Wilder undercard, or Wilder Fury undercard, since the last time Omar Figueroa has been in the ring. So his opponent retired, came out of retirement, boxed, and yeah, he's probably looking at his next fight. And Omar Figueroa still hasn't boxed, but I think he's had a lot of issues outside the ring. But I said to him on last week's show, I said, Browne just lost to Pacquiao, a massive fight. Did you watch it? And once again, his answer is nope. So all the very best to Omar Figueroa, but a fantastic fight, that one against John Molina Jr. I had to inform Omar Figueroa that John Molina Jr. can really punch, so that's going to be interesting. Also on that bill for the IBF World Minimum Weight title, Carlos Licona, 14-0, defends the belt against DJ Criel, 14-1 with 1 draw. Leo Santa Cruz tops the bill, 35-1 with 1 draw. His opponent was supposed to be somebody else, if I'm not mistaken, and he pulled out, so in stepped Rafael Rivera, 26-2 with 2 draws. Not really the opponent that we want to see in the opposite corner to Leo Santa Cruz. I'd like to see him in some of the better fights that can be made in his division. That's about it for that one. Moving out now to the final couple of bills to mention. This one is at the St. Petersburg Coliseum in Florida, USA. It's an interesting one, this one, by the way, because we get to see Antonio Tarver Jr., of course, the son of Antonio Tarver, 5-0. He's in a 6-round contest against a guy who's 2-10, Hector Mercado. Nothing wrong with that. He's still learning his trade. But the interesting thing is, it's a show that's being promoted by Roy Jones Jr. Obviously, Roy Jones Jr. and Antonio Tarver Sr. had a few fights back in the day. I think 2 or 3. So it just seems pretty strange how Roy Jones is having a hand in Antonio Tarver's son's career here by promoting the show. So we like to throw those facts out there. And moving out now to the final bill to mention. At the Mountaineer Casino Ballroom in New Cumberland, West Virginia, USA. One fight to mention over here. Dusty Hernandez Harrison, a man with a record of 30-0 with 1 draw. He's in a 6-rounder because he's been out the ring for about 3 years. I'm not quite sure why he's been out the ring so long, but a friend of the show, nice guy. He returns to the ring in a 6-rounder, like I say, against Ulises Jimenez, who's 23-23 with 1 draw. So it should be a nice, easy touch there to get Dusty Hernandez Harrison back in the mix. He was world ranked with the IBF at welterweight back then, and of course he's not in the rankings anymore. No one's even, well, not many people even remember the guy. But yeah, that's about it. We've tried to whiz through things as quick as possible there. We've brought you the review part, we've brought you there the preview part, we brought you the first guest, and we also discussed the news. Just before we bring in the second guest, Eddie, I just want to thank you once again for partaking in this week's podcast. Obviously, you've done it time and time again. I feel like I've said that a million times. Thank you once again for saving the day. Just have some closing words before we let you go and give us an update on what's going on right now in your life, in your crazy life.
Yeah, well, honestly, man, I appreciate you having me on, and actually, there's some things I'm probably going to be doing as far as in the way of podcasts and different things like that soon myself. And maybe even I'll be jumping on with you, hopefully, doing some things, maybe some collaboration soon. Just got to find different ways of, being involved in the boxing. If I don't, if I'm not fortunate enough to get a fight soon or fight another fight, just got to move on to bigger, better things. I don't know if there's going to be bigger or better, but let's just say move on to other things. But as it stands right now, I'm just training. I'm starting to spar. I'm starting to get myself in good shape and a good mental place just to go back at it again if I can. I mean, there's not a lot of guys out there that still believe that I can, but trust me, I feel as fresh as I ever have. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity, and somebody's crazy enough to get behind this old guy. I'll be ready to get back in there. You know what I mean? But as far as everything else, man, it's just staying busy, enjoying basketball, and enjoying my family and things like that right now, and with my friends and other family, and just trying to keep a close relationship with them. And I don't want to say too much busier than I already am, but it's important to keep doing things. You don't want to sit back and do nothing. That's boring. So that's it for me, man. And just keep doing what you're doing, Joe. You know what I mean? Anytime you need me, all you gotta do is let me know.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Right, just before we wrap up part 2, like I say, the last thing to do is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated WBO European champion, ranked number 12 in the world at super featherweight. It is, of course, the sharpshooter, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, how's that for an intro?
Yeah, pucker, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Arch. So we last spoke just after your last fight, obviously, that win over Leon Woodstock. It was a great fight, and of course you boxed tremendously and picked up a points win. You were also able to drop him in the first round with a jab. Despite the great performance, Archie, you truly believe that you were, in actual fact, far from your best that night in Leicester, despite getting the win so comfortably.
Yeah, well, look, listen, I put on a good performance, you know what I mean? And I did, and I got what we went up there to do, and I got the win. Watching it back, mate, I'm not my biggest critic. And this is my trainer. He's obviously had me from the 8 that he's trained me from the 7. So he knows me in and out better than anyone. So when we sat down together and watched it, he even said to me, look, it was a good performance and you won. He said, but come on, like we know there's there's much more here to come from, and I totally agree with him. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, the better opponents that I do face, then the better Archie Sharp you'll see.
So your next fight was set for March the 8th at London's Royal Albert Hall. Obviously, you were supposed to be fighting the fellow undefeated prospect, Lucas Berlingal. However, of course, you've had to pull out. You've been forced to pull out due to an injury. Tell us about it, Arch.
Yeah, of course. So what it was, so basically I was in sparring and I picked up a little niggle in sparring. Didn't think much of it, thought I could just carry on. Which I did. I carried on the sparring, and after the sparring, it was proper giving me some ag and playing up. So basically, what I'd done is I just give it the week and just see how I was, and then on top of that, I come down with tonsillitis as well. It kept me out from the gym for another week. My injury is getting better as we speak, but like I say, I'm still not back in the gym. So hopefully this week I will be back in the gym ticking over, doing bits and bobs. But even so the fight's in 3 or 4 weeks. I'll nowhere near be ready. for the fight. So it was a hard decision to make. My team around me, I've got a good team around me, and they made the decision for me because, like, typical boxer's ego, now I can fight. But you know what? Sitting back now, and there was no chance of me being able to be fit enough to be 100%, and there's too much on the line. I can't risk my unbeaten record, my WBO, all this hard work to get where we are just for the sake of ego and a payday. Do you know what I mean? I need to be clever. Like I say, there's no chance of me. I should be sparring by now, doing 10 rounds, getting ready to, like, halfway through my camp. But obviously, there's nothing like that's happened. I've had 2.5 weeks out of the gym.
Yeah, and I was going to say there, you said it yourself, obviously you didn't want to pull out. It was very much a team decision. They had to step in and make the right decision. Now, I'm sure that you were gutted, Arch, because coming off a fantastic win, it's important, of course, to keep that momentum going. But by the time you do eventually get back in the ring, it'll actually end up being your biggest layoff in your career.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, I want to be active. That's the whole reason why I'm in this sport. And I'm just gutted, mate, and especially being at the Royal Albert Hall and everything. And like I say, it's March, October was when I boxed Woodstock. So yeah, it's going to be a long layoff. I'd say at the minute I've just got to get myself fit and in shape. And hopefully, I'm hoping to be out again in April. So it's not the end of the world, but we'll just have to see. Like I say, my health is more important. I've just got to get myself in tip-top shape, make sure there's no niggles, make sure I'm 100% fit. At the end of the day, like I say, I'm in an important stage of my career now. I can't have banana skins. So that's why everything's got to be 100%. And like I say, it's down to the team to make that final decision. I've done as much as I can. I went hospital to have x-rays and everything done. And like I say, everything happens for a reason. So we'll see what happens in April whenever I'm out next. But I do believe everything happens for a reason. So hopefully we'll see a positive from this.
And April, of course, being your birthday month, we shall see if there'll be a fight there.
Cool.
Just really like an update, Archer, on the actual injury itself. I mean, you didn't. I don't think you really said what it was. I mean, how sort of bad is it? Have you had to go and see someone like a professional or whatever, or what is the situation?
So basically, what it is, so I picked up the injury in sparring. And it was a bit of a niggle. And what it is, I went to the hospital to have x-rays done. Thankfully, there was no actual cracks or brokes. It was just very intense bruising, severe bruising, which, like I say, even now, still tender. So if any shot lands on it at the minute, it would really hurt. But I'm having cryotherapy over in Tunbridge there just to help bring out the bruising, and just got to rest. It's just one of them things. It's just one of them injuries that you can't do anything. It's just for the body to heal itself. So yeah, basically that's all I've got to do really. Just like I say, just keep myself nice and rested up, get myself into these treatments and have these cryo treatments to help bring the bruising out. And yeah, basically that's it, mate. It's just one of them waiting games now. So like I say, I'm where I am now to where I was 2.5 weeks ago. I'm in a much better place. I'm able to do a little bit more now. So like I say, hopefully I'll be in the gym, like ticking over this week. So I'm on the mend, and hopefully, touch wood, everything goes the way that I've got it planned.
Touch wood for sure. Now, if you can return to the ring as soon as April, how many times do you believe that you'll be in the ring in 2019? Because like I say, last year you only had 2 fights. This year you've got off to a bad start with this bad luck with the injury. But surely at this stage of your career, you want to be having about 4 fights a year, something like that, like you was before when you were fighting every sort of 3 months or so.
Yeah, of course. So basically what my plan is, like I say, get myself fit. I'll have to sit down with the team and work out what they've got lined up for April. If I am out in April, get straight back into the ring. And like I say, I'm going to be coming for all the titles this year. So hopefully all the super featherweight titles will be ready to put them up, because I ain't messing around this year. Like I say, I'm having to start a little bit later into the year at the minute. Like I say, hopefully April, if everything goes to plan, which is basically nearly halfway through the year. So as soon as I can get back in the ring, the better. Picking over, I'm always fit anyway all year round. So, it's a matter of fact of getting in there, shaking off a bit of sawdust and getting ready to rock some big titles.
And I know that Frank Warren has done a good job to get Lucas Berlinguer another opponent. He will still be fighting on that March 8th date. But judging by the timing of obviously him fighting and you perhaps fighting in April, he's obviously not going to be the next guy. Is that a fight that you'd like to have rescheduled down the line, or is it not really? There's not really been much build-up or anticipation or rivalry or much stuff like that. Is it a fight you can see happening again, or perhaps not?
Well, of course, I can see the fight happening. At the end of the day, listen, like I said, I believe so. This Lucas Ballinger's a good kid anyway, so if he's going to be mixing around that scene, then there's no doubt we're going to be in the ring having the fights. The problem I've got at the minute is, like I said, I wanted to be boxing in March to have a good defence with Lucas Ballinger. Like I say, 11-0, undefeated prospect. That was my plan, have my defence with him and then move on straight into big titles. Now I'm at a different situation. I'll be having a fight later on in the year than what I anticipated. I wanted to be out in March, early March, obviously on the 8th show. Now if I'm out in April, back end of April, then ideally I want to be jumping straight back in and getting into a title fight, ideally. But like I say, I've got to speak to my team. If Lucas Ballinger is in the mix still, then yeah, of course the fight's going to happen 100%. So yeah, it's just unfortunate that this has happened. I do believe so as well that Lucas Ballinger was a name that was given to me for the Southern Area title when he couldn't have to fight either because of injury. So this fight has meant to happen before. And that's what led me on to the Woodstock fight. So, yeah, so the fight is definitely obviously meant to happen, and it will happen. It's just a matter of when. Unfortunately, he had an injury at the start. I've had an injury now. It's just epoxy. It's just this game, isn't it? It's just the boxing game. Unfortunately, these things happen. So we'll just see. Like I say, just need to get myself fit and get myself back in the ring.
For sure. Now, I went on your website today. It's actually a brilliant website, www.archiesharp.com. You've got some interesting pages, and I found it quite enjoyable actually going through all the content. So I just really wanted to say, anyone that's listening that hasn't checked out the website, go and check it out. I mean, it gives quite a bit of a backstory, and it's quite interesting. I'm not just saying that because Archie's on the line. Definitely check out that website. Archie, coming down to the final couple questions, really. You're ranked on BoxRec as the 8th best super featherweight in Britain. Now, in front of you, there are another 7 men. At the very top, and understandably so, is Scott Quigg. I mean, he's probably the only guy kind of on that world level. He's only ranked there because he's moved up in weight now, if I'm not mistaken. Under him, next in line at number 2 is Sam Bowen, obviously the undefeated British champion. After him, it's James Tennyson, Martin J. Ward, Ronnie Clark, Zelfa Barrett, and Marco McCulloch. All those guys have got at least one loss. You're just behind them on the rankings. With of course your 14-0 perfect record. Are these the type of fights that you want, perhaps at the back end of 2019, maybe early 2020? Are you looking at anyone out of those guys in particular, or not at all? Fill me in.
Right. So we're not really looking at anyone in particular at the minute. Like I say, I'm coming for the titles this year. So whoever's got the titles that I want at that particular time will be the man I have to box. Like I said, there's some great fighters there. In them 7 fighters, they're all good fighters. The super featherweight British boxing at the minute is on fire. There's a lot of great fighters in my weight category. But like I say, my main goal at the minute is getting fit, getting myself in the gym, getting myself back sparring, and then 100% we're coming for the titles, and it could maybe one of their names in the mix.
And finally, Arch, just before I let you go, have you got any closing words at all, just to tell the listeners or anyone in particular, just before we let you go? Say whatever you like.
Well, like I say, I was gutted that I'm not on the 8th of March at Royal Albert Hall, so I apologise to all the fans who are looking forward to seeing the fight. But like I say, this is boxing and these things do happen, and I will be back very soon. And when I am back, I'll be making big statements. And yeah, like I say, just stay tuned. Everyone check out my social media just to keep yourself updated. And I thank my team around me. At the minute, I've got a great team, and they're all looking out for me for the best. So 2019, I did say last year is going to be my year, and I know this is a little bit of a hiccup, but it still will be my year. yeah, like I say, just I appreciate everyone's support as well, all the nice messages that I have had regarding this injury. And, yeah, I look forward to getting back in the ring and putting on a good show for you all. So thank you.
Excellent, man, and it's great to see you finally getting that recognition. I see a lot of people praising you on social media. When when it got announced that you were pulled off the card, there were a lot of people underneath that tweet, expressing their I guess their concerns, and also, just expressing a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Perhaps disappointment that they won't get to see you fight, which is fantastic. Just before you go, Arch, give a shout out to your cousin who's a big fan of the podcast. You can't not mention him.
Yeah, cool. My cousin George, like I say, he's got his T-shirt from you, and he's loving it. He's always keeping me updated. We're always in contact anyway, but yeah, he loves it. He's always listening and he's keeping updated. So shout out to my cousin George.
Shout out to cousin George. Absolutely fantastic. Right, Arch, just before you go, like I say, I want to say it's always great having you on the podcast. I hope that you heal up very soon. I cannot wait to see you back in the ring, and we'll catch up in the near future, no doubt.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 174 of the BoxHard podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show who weirdly share the same birthday. The former WBA heavyweight world champion Lucas Browne and the undefeated WBO European champion Mr. Archie Sharp. One piece of news that has broken since recording the show is that the 2016 Olympic bronze medalist Filip Hrgović has signed a co-promotional deal with Matchroom and Sauerland. I really like Hrgović because, like I say, he's 7-0, and in that time he's already fought the likes of Big Sexy Sean Turner, Tom Little, Amir Mansour and Kevin Kingpin Johnson. He's kind of got that Joe Joyce kind of mentality in terms of wanting the big fights as soon as possible, and in fact he's probably got more of a Joe Joyce mentality than Joe Joyce does. Not to mention Hrgović is only 26 years of age. He's still a baby, rather than Joyce, who of course is in his 30s. But other than that, there's nothing else to mention. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and we will be back next week with another big show as per usual. Until then, take good care, my friends.